Welcome back to the channel, everyone, and today I'm proud to announce a new project, and that is going to be this Santa Cruz Highball C hardtail mountain bike that I picked up about a week ago. Now, honestly, I wasn't planning on buying a new bike, but I found this used for a great price. I couldn't resist it, and I bought it, and oh my god, it is by far the most amazing bike I've ever ridden. I've been lucky enough to have some really cool bikes over the years, and no bike has really made me just say wow as much as this bike, just with how stiff, how light it is, but also how compliant it is. So I'm going to be turning this bike into a weight weenie project. I'm going to try to get it down as light as possible. And so the purpose of this video is to just sort of go over what's on the bike currently, my initial review of the bike, having ridden it for about 100 miles so far, as well as my plans for the bike. How am I going to get this bike as light as possible? So I'm going to talk first about my initial reaction, then we'll go over the parts on the bike, and then we'll tell you about the goals for this bike and how we're going to accomplish them. Alright, so riding impressions. Having ridden this Highball for about a week now, what do I think of it so far? Well, honestly, the first thing I noticed was just how amazing it is at climbing. This thing climbs like nobody's business. It's very stiff, it's very light, but despite not being the highest end model, it's the C carbon, not the CC, so slightly heavier, slightly less stiff than the CC carbon, and it has sort of a mid-level build, which I'll go over later. This thing climbs amazingly. I've got some other mountain bikes, I've got some gravel bikes, and none of them climb like this thing does. This thing just takes off when you put the power to the pedals. And so honestly, this is what's impressed me the most and what sort of inspired me to go down the weight weenie rabbit hole of trying to get this bike as light as possible. Now, the second thing I noticed, beyond the obviously amazing climbing ability that this bike has, is also just how compliant it is. It's a 23-pound hardtail with 100 millimeters of front travel. And despite that, this thing goes downhill extremely well. Now, obviously, it's not, a trail bike or anything like that. It's not a full suspension bike. It's not going to do the things that my Ripmo AF I have, my Ibis Ripmo I have. It's not going to be able to do that. But regardless, for smooth trails, for any kind of light chatter, this thing just soaks it up, and it'll handle anything that you throw at it as long as it's not too chunky. So I was very impressed with that as well. I definitely think that Santa Cruz took what they learned from, the Tall Boy and other bikes like that and put it into this Highball. So all in all, I'm extremely impressed with the bike, and I can't wait to get it a little bit lighter. So let's go over what parts are currently on the bike so we can start deciding what we're going to replace. Now, the drivetrain is a SRAM GX Equal 12-speed drivetrain with the 10 to 50 tooth cassette in the rear. Crankset is a Truvativ Stylo 7K with a 32 tooth round chainring. Pedals are Shimano's PDM 520s. The front fork is a Fox 32 Performance with 100 millimeters of travel and a remote lockout. Saddle is a WTB Silverado Pro on a race face next carbon seat post. The handlebars and stem are both race face Aeffect 35 millimeter. Handlebars are 740 millimeters wide. Brakes are SRAM level TLs, front and rear. And the wheel set is a race face AR25 alloy wheel set laced to DT Swiss 370 hubs. Now, all in all, this is a very nice combination of parts on the bike. As it currently sits, we're sitting at about 23.7 pounds, which means we need to shed 3.5 or so pounds. Now, that is a pretty hefty amount, given the fact that some of the parts on here are already really nice and rather light. So we definitely have our work cut out for us, but this is going to be a multi-month project, which will take some time, obviously some money, in order to get it down to that 20-pound weight goal. Now, in terms of how I want to do this, well, I've set some sort of guidelines for myself, because while I want to get this bike down to 20 pounds, I want to do it in my own way. So I've got sort of 3 rules for myself. Now, the first thing is no compromises. I still want to be able to ride this bike and enjoy it. So I'm not going to put, 600 millimeter wide bars on here just because they're lighter, or I'm not going to put, some pedals that I don't like just because they're lighter. I still want this to be a bike I want to ride every single day. The second outline I have for myself is I'm going to stay away from questionable parts, let's put it that way. parts that are, at a price that are too good to be true. They're probably a little too light, or maybe carbon of questionable quality. So, maybe things like bottle cages I don't really mind, but anything that could fail catastrophically on a mountain bike, I'm going to avoid any sort of questionable origin for that part. And the final goal for myself is, well, I want to keep this budget. Obviously, these parts are going to be expensive. They're nice parts, but I'm not gonna shy away from buying used, buying secondhand, because that's how you can find some really good value. And there's nothing wrong with buying used parts. So those are my goals for the bike. Those are my parameters which I'm trying to meet in order to reach the 20-pound weight limit. I hope you guys follow along with the build as we go. And if you have any suggestions for some parts to change first, why don't you drop a comment in the comments below and let me know what you would change, what parts I should look for. And I can't wait to get started. Thank you all for watching, and I'll catch you on the next episode coming out soon.